Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The Las Vegas Raiders are in complete chaos right now, and honestly, it's been a long time coming. After that embarrassing 24-10 loss to the Cleveland Browns at home, the front office finally did what everyone knew had to happen. They fired offensive coordinator Chip Kelly. But guys, that's just the beginning of this story because there's so much more that went down that I need to share with you. What's up, Raider Nation? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Raiders. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel's all about breaking down everything you need to know about the Raiders. So, Pete Carroll pulled the trigger on Kelly after watching this offense sink to the absolute bottom of the league. We're talking tied for dead last in points per game with just 15 points a contest, 30th in total yards, 31st in rushing. Like, how do you even accomplish that with the talent we brought in? But here's the thing. Kelly wasn't the only one showing the door. Senior offensive assistant Bob Bicknell got fired too. Bicknell was Kelly's right-hand man, the guy helping build the playbook day after day. When you start removing not just the coordinator, but also the guy grinding out the details with him, that tells you everything you need to know about how badly this thing fell apart. I mean, think about it. This is the same Chip Kelly who was the highest paid coordinator in the entire NFL, pulling in $6 million a year. $6 million. And what do we get for that investment? An offense that couldn't score, couldn't protect the quarterback, couldn't establish any kind of rhythm week after week. The expectations coming into this season were sky high. We brought in Geno Smith to be an upgraded quarterback. We drafted Ashton Jeanty to establish the run game. We had Brock Bowers ready to be a monster at tight end. On paper, this looked like it could really work. But then reality hit hard. Bowers went down in week 1. Colton Miller and Jackson Powers-Johnson got hurt. And suddenly, our offensive line just completely collapsed. Now look, I get it. Injuries are brutal, and any coordinator would struggle with that kind of chaos. But here's what really kills me. Even with all those injuries, this offense didn't just struggle. It went backwards. It became the worst in the league in the ugliest way possible. Young players like Jack Betch, Dante Thornton, Caleb Rogers, and Charles Grant barely saw the field. On a team with only 2 wins, you can't afford to waste an entire draft class without even testing what they can do. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ball, defensive coordinator Patrick Graham has been pulling off straight-up miracles with a cheap patched-together defense that still finds ways to compete almost every single week. That contrast right there made it impossible to defend what was happening on offense. When your defense is overachieving with less talent and your offense is underachieving with more resources, somebody's got to pay the price. Max Crosby, our defensive end and one of the heart and soul guys on this team, didn't hold back either. He straight up said the offense has been struggling and they felt like a change needed to be made. When your defensive players are publicly saying the offense needs help, you know things have gotten really bad. That's not the kind of thing guys usually say out loud unless it's reached a breaking point. Now, Pete Carroll came out with a statement trying to keep things professional. He thanked Chip Kelly for his service and wished him well. Very corporate, very measured. But let's be real. Carroll is under massive pressure right now. This is already the second coordinator he's fired mid-season, something he'd never done before in his entire coaching career. First, it was the special teams coordinator. Now it's the offensive coordinator and his top assistant. That's 3 coaches gone in the same year. This is a full-scale house cleaning happening in real time while the season goes down in flames. But let's talk about that game against the Browns because that was the final straw that exposed everything. At home, packed stadium, and we could only put up 10 points? 10 points? The Browns' pass rush was in Geno's face all day long. He took double-digit sacks, the protection was non-existent, and the offense had 0 answers. Meanwhile, across the field, Cleveland's rookie quarterback was making his first NFL start and somehow looked more functional than what we had going on. That's gotta hurt when you're a Raiders fan watching a rookie in his debut outplay your veteran quarterback in your own house. And here's what things got really ugly. After the final whistle, Geno Smith was caught on camera walking off the field, and it looked like he was flipping off the home crowd. Yeah, you heard that right. The fans were booing, frustrated after watching another terrible offensive performance, and the quarterback responded by seemingly giving them the middle finger. Look, I understand emotions run high. Geno has been taking hits from the offensive line, from opposing defenses, from the media all season. The guy's at his breaking point. But man, when you do something like that to your own fans at home, that's crossing the line. Raider Nation has been loyal through decades of ups and downs. We moved from Oakland to Las Vegas, and we're still building that connection with the fan base in a new city. For the leader of the offense to respond to his own fans that way, it creates a wound that's hard to heal. After the game, Geno took responsibility for how we played, said it was on him and he needs to make better plays. That's good to hear. But that image of the gesture toward the fans is louder than any quote he can give in a press conference. The NFL doesn't usually let stuff like that slide either. We just saw Jerry Jones get fined for a similar incident. So, Geno might be looking at a fine coming from the league office on top of everything else. Now you've got problems on the field, problems with the fan base, and potentially problems with the league. It's a bad look all around. Pete Carroll tried to be optimistic in his press conference after the firing. He gave his usual, "something good is about to happen, you just have to keep the faith" speech. He said he's never been through a 2-9 season before, but his approach stays the same. Look, fans love an optimistic coach. That's part of who Carroll is. But what's happening on the field is screaming louder than any motivational quote. The gap between what the head coach is feeling and what the fans in the stands are living through is getting wider every week. He talked about the game being defensive on both sides, about missed shot plays, about the quarterback being under pressure all day. He even complained about the officiating crew throwing too many flags at bad times. But at the end of the day, none of those explanations answer the real question, which is, why can't we score points? When a reporter asked him about using more of the rookie offensive linemen like Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant, Carroll said their time is coming, maybe sooner rather than later, but for now, he trusts the guys he's putting out there. That "we're taking our best shot" type of talk is hard to buy into when your best shot results in 10 points at home and your quarterback getting destroyed. The worst part about this whole situation is watching what could have been. The Browns came into this game in the same hole we're in, both teams struggling, both teams near the bottom of the standings. And now they walk out with momentum because their rookie quarterback showed promise while our offense fell flat again. We could have had a shot at one of those rookie quarterbacks in recent drafts, but we passed. And now we're watching from the front row as one of them potentially becomes the next face of the league, and he did it by beating us in our own stadium. There's one silver lining to this disaster, if you can even call it that. The loss pushes us deeper into position for a top draft pick. At 2-9, we're not playing for the playoffs. We're playing for draft position now. If this season is going to fall apart, we might as well squeeze every inch of rebuilding opportunity out of it. With the Chargers, Broncos, Eagles, Texans, Giants, and Chiefs still on the schedule, we could be looking at a 3-17 finish or worse. So where does this leave us? Scott Turner, the quarterback's coach, has been named the interim offensive coordinator. The offensive staff is getting reshuffled on the fly in the middle of a lost season. The relationship between Geno Smith and Raider Nation is hanging by a thread after that gesture. Pete Carroll is trying to hold everything together while facing serious questions about whether this whole experiment was a mistake. And the rest of us are just watching the silver and black turn into a live laboratory for dysfunction. This team drives us absolutely crazy, but we're not going anywhere. That's what being part of Raider Nation means. We live and breathe this franchise through the good times and the disasters. Right now, we're in disaster mode, but the hope is that these firings are the first step towards actually fixing what's broken. The offense needs a complete identity change. The staff needs to figure out how to protect the quarterback and get the young players on the field. And most importantly, this team needs to remember what it means to wear the silver and black and represent a fan base that deserves better than what we've been watching. This season is lost, but how we handle the rest of it matters for next year and beyond. The rebuild is no longer a theory, it's a fact, and everyone from Carroll on down needs to accept that and start making decisions with the future in mind, not just trying to salvage something from this wreckage. That's where we're at right now. Frustrated, disappointed, but still here. Still watching, still believing that eventually this franchise will get it right. Because at the end of the day, once you're Raider Nation for life.